Hi everyone, Stuart from Upspec Gaming here. This video is for anyone who has recently bought an xScreen or is planning to buy an xScreen and is wondering how to use it. Okay, so the first thing, read the instructions here. Do not power on the Xbox when the xScreen is closed. This is important because it could make the Xbox overheat and or cause damage to the screen or the Xbox. You need to read the instructions, which I'll take you through, which is about enabling the ability for the xScreen to use the sensors it has built in to turn off the Xbox with the HDMI CEC function. So we'll go through that shortly, and don't over tighten the thumb screws. So first thing we need to do is you don't remove this sticker, you can just remove the plastic film that the sticker is sitting on. So we take the plastic film off just like that. It's pretty satisfying. Get rid of that, and then we have our xScreen. So we need to attach it, get our Xbox Series S, which I have here, and what we're going to do, I'll get rid of my expansion drive, put it over there. What we're going to do is we just need to line up the USB and HDMI ports that are sticking out of the xScreen with where they go in on the Xbox Series S, which is USB and HDMI. And once you line them up, I find it's best to line up the USB first because, as you can see, it just sticks out slightly more. And then once you get that lined up, it just all attaches. You don't need to take the latches off completely. You can just loosen them a little bit such that you can see the little hooks can stick out far enough to clear the side of the Xbox. So we can do that on both sides. So we can see they can clear it. And now I'll just line it up like this, get that there, and then we're in, and that's it. Screw on the side latches. Like that, one side, screw on the other side, and that's the entire attachment process. You now have an xScreen plus Xbox Series S ready to go. So the first thing we do after that is we open it up, get our power cable, which plugs in to the power port. So we've got left access back here for the power, which is here, and the expansion drive, which is the Seagate expansion drive, which I have here. So you can now still put that in. Can be a little tricky if you've got big hands, so sometimes you need to remove the xScreen to get that out if your fingers are too big, but otherwise you can just sneak it out. So this power cord just plugs directly into the Xbox as it always did, and if you have power then this logo should light up automatically like that, and we get the xScreen logo on the screen. Now we just power on the Xbox. And the first thing that it's going to tell you when you turn on your Xbox for the first time is you're going to get a little message up here in the right hand corner that's going to say you're in 720p mode, please turn on to 1080p mode. So I've already used an xScreen before, so mine says full HD already, but if you hadn't used an xScreen on your Xbox before, you would have got a message there that said you're in 720p mode, please go into the Xbox settings and change to 1080p mode. So I'll do that now just so that you can see exactly how it's done. Just get that screen a bit better. Okay, so now we go to TV and display options, and we go to here. It would probably already have been on 720 mode, and we just want to change it to 1080p mode, like that. The other settings you need to do is you need to go down into sleep mode and startup. You need to come here, and you may have had it on standby, but you need to change it to energy saver mode. And what energy saver mode means is when you turn off the Xbox, it turns it off fully and it stops any heat coming out of the fan, residual heat. When you have it on standby mode, there is still always some residual heat coming out of the fan, which we don't want when our xScreen lid is closed. The second thing you want to do is go to TV and AV power options here. Click on that, and you want to, again, I've already got it enabled on my Xbox, but you want to click this, enable HDMI CEC, and then you want to, the important one is that other devices, this one in the middle, can turn the console off. When you do that, it will pop up and say, to confirm the setting, you need to restart the Xbox. So you should let the Xbox restart. I'll just turn it off and turn it back on so we can simulate it. But essentially, you let it restart, and once the Xbox turns back on, then we've enabled the two things we need to do to keep the Xbox safe and to enable our ability to have the xScreen turn off the Xbox when we close the lid. So now it's saying full HD 1080p up in the corner. Hopefully that's the same for you. And I'll just show you how now we can close the screen and it will turn the Xbox off. So like this, you should hear it. It's turned the light's gone off on the back of the xScreen. You can see the Xbox power flashing and it's off. So that's what we need to do. And now we know, once you've done that, you know you're safe. The xScreen, when you open it, cannot turn the Xbox on because the Xbox doesn't have a function to do that. So the xScreen will always turn on when you open it if the power is still plugged in, but you'll need to manually turn the Xbox back on. Okay, so now we're back on. Let me just show you how some of the menu settings work. So the buttons here, you've got menu, that brings up the menu to go into the various normal settings. We don't really use these, to be honest. There are different presets you can use and other settings in here, but we really just kind of mostly leave this alone ourselves because in the settings here, the quick settings, you push this one, the second button, which has got the little sun on it, which brings up brightness, and that's where you can change the brightness. It comes from the factory at 80 out of 100. If you're in a bright environment, you may want to ramp that up to 100. If you're in a not bright environment, then obviously you may want it a lot lower. The second one is sound. So you push that quick access to sound, and again, these two buttons go up and down. Comes from the factory at 50, which is a good level. So I'll just leave that. This button here is the enter button for in the menu, but it also, when you've got no menu up, it'll also the quick button for the crosshair. So if I push that, it might be a little hard to see, but you can see there's a crosshair there that I'm cycling on the screen, and that just cycles through 4 different crosshairs and 2 different colors in red and blue, and it remembers the last one you left it on. So if I want it on this big red one here, and then if you want to get rid of it at any time, you push the menu button once and it's gone. If you want to bring it back, you push the enter button and it comes back. So you can just get it on and off and it stays on your preferred one and remembers it. So I think that's really the only functionality that you need to know on the menu. You don't really need to push the power button here because it turns on with the Xbox and turns off with the Xbox. Sometimes it can get out of sync, and if it does happen to get out of sync, then you may need to turn it off, the power button off, and then turn it back on after 5 or 10 seconds. And sometimes you might need to do the same thing with the Xbox. So let's get into some of the accessories. I'm going to start by showing you how to change a latch. It's a very simple process. So you'll get latches in a little container like this. It'll give you 2 replacement latches, and these are the Kickstarter Green limited edition, as I mentioned. All you do to change a latch is you can do it when the xScreen is on or off the Xbox, but I'll do it with it on. You undo the thumb screw until you take the thumb screw completely out. So to attach the new one, you poke this part into the xScreen, into the little slot here, and then the hooks will just align to the Xbox if you've got the Xbox attached. If not, just leave it a little loose so that when you put the Xbox on, it's got room. And then you just screw in the thumb screw, which goes through the hole and into the hole in the xScreen, and then just tightens the same way you did it the first time. And the teeth go naturally into the hole in the Xbox. Tighten it till it's firm, but don't over tighten. That's firm, and that's it. That's all you do to change one of the latches. Okay, let's now use the stand feet. So if you bought the stand feet, this is an optional accessory that you can use to stand the Xbox on its end and use effectively the Xbox like a stand for the xScreen, so that you get just higher and a smaller footprint. It's not necessary by any means, but it's a useful thing to have if you're in environments where that can be a better way to use the Xbox. So all you do to use it is you lean the screen all the way back. It can go all the way to 180. You then attach the stand foot here. The stand foot uses the rubber on the underside of the Xbox as how it grips on. So you line it up to the side and then you slide it on and it will stay there, as long as you haven't lost your little feet off your Xbox, as I did a few times. You then do the same on the other side, and then you can stand it up. And then don't be careful not to push it back too far. Basically, it goes to 180 or very, very slightly past 180, but obviously don't force it back further than it's naturally willing to go, otherwise you will damage it. So that's how you use the stand feet. Lastly is the xScreen case. So this is the official case we made to be able to carry the xScreen, the Xbox Series S, a controller, a power cable, and a USB charge cable, and the stand feet in the smallest footprint you could possibly have it in. So absolutely, you can just put the xScreen and Xbox together into a backpack. It fits in a 15-inch laptop sleeve in most backpacks, and that's great. If you want to just carry it on its own though, or you want to be able to throw it in a bigger suitcase and have it protected, that's why we designed this. We spent a lot of time getting it to the smallest possible form factor we could. So take the cardboard slip off, you don't need that anymore, and just open the case with the zip. And the first thing you're going to notice when you open the case probably, or maybe, is that it has these white Velcro straps attached in it. Now, there's been a little bit of confusion we've seen with some of the people who already have the case, and that is to think that these are to hold in the controllers. They're not to hold in the controllers. They are just some cable ties that we've provided to use on your power cord and your USB charge cable in case you don't have cable ties. If you do have them, you don't need to use them. You can use them for anything else, but we just thought it would be useful to keep everything tidy. So I'll show you how those work, but essentially just pull those out. You don't need them straight away. So the first thing is putting the Xbox in. The Xbox goes in this way with the Xbox button down the bottom of the case, and you can see inside the case that it's got contours to fit the latches. So it can only go on one way, and hopefully that's obvious, and it just fits in there really snugly like that into the case, so that it's really well protected, and the latches are protected, and the edges has got some protection as well. Secondly is the cables. So I'll show you how to use one of these cable ties in case you don't know. It's pretty cool. So you wrap the cable tie around, you put the end of the cable tie through that little loop, and what that does is attaches it to the cable. Most people might know this. I actually didn't until I got one, so I thought I should explain it. So then it's always on the cable and you don't lose it. Then you can just wrap up the cable like so. Wrap it around. I'm doing a terrible job. Wrap it right around like that, and then you sort of have a tied up cable, but I did a bad job. But essentially that just goes straight in here into that pocket there. Obviously there's room for a bigger cable. In fact, we had some friends on Twitter help us and measure the UK cable, so hopefully that UK plug head should fit perfectly just in that spot there. But that's where we put the power cable. Then the USB charge cable, any USB charge cable, USB-C obviously for the Series S controller, and then to plug into the front of the Xbox to charge. Again, I'll just put the cable tie around it, through the loop, wrap up the cable, keeps it nice and tight. And then where we propose that you put this is in this little cavity here, which is actually under the controller. So what we've done is we've got a little contour here, which the top of the controller sits, the bottom of the controller sits down here, and it leaves a little gap here where the cable can sit under. So then lastly, you put the controller in, and it sits in that contour like that, on top of that cable, just like that. And so you don't need anything to tie down the cable, the controller, because the controller is held down by the top of the case. Last thing is the stand feet. If you have them and you want to take them with you, they can also go in this pouch at the top. If you don't have the stand feet, you can obviously put other stuff in the pouch at the top. The reason the pouch at the top is quite small is because we've intentionally made it so that anything you put in there doesn't get in the way of the controller buttons when you close it. So it's intentionally small because that just holds that out of the way, and so that when we close it, it doesn't hit that controller button. Just like that. So then you zip up the case and you're good to go. So hopefully that's everything you need to know about the xScreen. Thanks for watching, and we look forward to seeing what you do with your xScreen. Thank you.